Your vacation home is perfect for our family reunion. We're coming next month, Dad announced. I bought a $680,000 lake house with MY money. Mom added, and your sister's kids are staying all summer. You don't use it anyway. I said sure, then changed all the locks, security codes, and gate access. When they showed up with a U-Haul full of luggage, I was standing on my own dock when my dad said it. Loud, proud, like he was doing me a favor. It was a Saturday afternoon at the lake, early spring. The water was still cold and gray. The air smelled like wet pine and diesel from somebody's fishing boat. I had invited my parents up for one night because I was still trying to be the kind of son who keeps family close. My dad leaned on the railing like he owned it already. Your vacation home is perfect for our family reunion, he announced. We're coming next month. I blinked. I actually looked behind him like someone else might be standing there who he was talking to. Then my mom, sitting in one of the brand new Adirondack chairs I paid for, smiled like she'd already planned the seating chart. And your sister's kids are staying all summer, she added. You don't use it anyway. I felt my throat tighten. Across the deck, my niece was smearing barbecue sauce on the outdoor cushion. My nephew had his shoes on the coffee table. My mom didn't correct them. She never corrected them when it was my sister's kids. She only corrected people when it was me. I could hear the sliding door behind me, the soft click of it closing. That sound made it feel even more real, like I was being locked out of my own life while standing in the middle of it. I didn't explode. I didn't raise my voice. I just swallowed hard and said the first thing my parents have always trained me to say. Sure. My dad clapped his hands once, satisfied. Good, he said. I'll tell everyone to start planning. He said everyone like it was a gift, like my house was a community center. I looked out at the lake and tried to keep my face neutral. My hands were cold even though the sun was out. Because what I wanted to say was, I bought this place with my money. My name is on the deed. You didn't find it for the family. You didn't help me buy it. You didn't even ask if I wanted a reunion here. But I didn't say any of that. Not yet. I'm Simon. I was 38 at the time. I lived 2 hours away in the city, and I worked as a broker. I did well enough that people assumed I had endless money and endless patience. I'm not married. No kids. That part mattered in my family because it meant I was always treated like the extra adult, the flexible one, the one who could be used as the solution to other people's problems. My sister, Dana, had 3 kids and a husband who bounced between jobs like it was a hobby. She also had my parents' full attention, full sympathy, and apparently full access to anything I owned. For years, I had been the quiet wallet. It started small. A temporary car payment when Dana's SUV got repossession notices. A short-term loan when my parents' furnace died. A just this once deposit for a family trip because everyone was so stressed. I didn't just hand them money. I paid directly. Utilities, insurance, repairs. I was the guy who said, just send me the bill. At first, I told myself it was normal. Families help. People get in rough spots. But the rough spot never ended. And the gratitude never showed up. Instead, it became expectation. They didn't ask anymore. They informed. They didn't say thank you. They said, well, you're the only one who can. And every time I tried to put space between myself and their needs, something happened. Some little punishment. A family dinner I wasn't told about. A group photo where I was accidentally left out of the frame. A birthday party at my parents' house where my name was missing from the cake, but my checks still covered the catering. I learned to swallow it, to smile, to keep the peace. Because the truth was simple and embarrassing. I wanted them to choose me for reasons that had nothing to do with my bank balance. So when I bought the lake house, a $680,000 place I'd saved for and negotiated hard for, I didn't even tell them at first. I wanted something that was mine. Something quiet. Something clean. It was my reward for years of playing responsible. I pictured calm weekends. Coffee on the deck. Maybe a friend or two. Maybe, someday, someone I loved. I pictured peace. I forgot my family doesn't allow me to have things that are just mine. The first sign came before my parents ever stepped inside. 2 weeks after I closed on the place, my mom called me during work hours. Sweetheart, she said, like she was about to share a tender memory. What's the gate code? I paused, hand hovering over my keyboard. What gate code? I asked. The gate, she repeated, irritated now, like I was playing dumb. The community gate. Dana wants to bring the kids up there to see it. They're excited. I hadn't given Dana the address yet. I hadn't given anyone the address. I said, how does Dana even know about it? Silence. Then my mom did what she always did. She turned it into me being difficult. Why are you being secretive? She asked. We're your family. I didn't answer the real question because I already knew the answer. They'd found out because they monitored my life the way people monitor a resource. They watched for upgrades. They listened for new assets. They waited for something they could claim. I gave my mom a fake code. One number off. I told myself it was a harmless test. If they tried it without permission, I'd know. The next day, my neighbor at the lake texted me a photo from his porch. It was Dana's minivan parked crooked in my driveway. My sister's kids were running across my yard like it was a playground. Dana was holding a margarita cup she definitely hadn't brought from home. My neighbor's message was simple. Did you know you have company? My stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my chest. I called Dana immediately. She answered like she was doing me a favor. Oh hi, she sang. We're just checking it out. The kids love it. You're at my house? I said. She laughed. You weren't using it. I gripped my phone so tight my fingers went numb. How did you get in? I asked. Dana paused for a second like she was thinking which lie would be easiest. Mom told me the code, she said. I felt my face go hot. That was not permission, I said low. You can't just show up. Dana's tone sharpened. Relax, she snapped. It's not like we're hurting anything. In the background, I heard a crashing sound and one of her kids yelling. I found a room with bunk beds. That wasn't a bunk bedroom. That was my office. I said, Dana, leave. Now. She exhaled like I was exhausting her. Fine, she said. God, you don't have to be weird about it. Then she added, like a final punch. Dad said we're going to use it for the reunion anyway. That was the first time I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan. So when my parents stood on my deck that spring day and casually announced their takeover, it wasn't a surprise. It was just bold. And that boldness did something to me. It took all my old excuses. They mean well, they're stressed, they don't realize, and shredded them into something ugly and clear. They realized. They didn't care. They had decided that my life was a shared family resource, like a Costco membership. And if I didn't fight, they would take everything quietly. So I smiled, nodded, and said sure. Then I went inside and started making a list. Not an emotional list. A practical one. Locks, codes, gate access, garage keypad, Wi-Fi, security cameras, spare keys I'd stupidly hidden under a planter because I thought I lived in a normal world. I knew exactly what would happen if I confronted them up front. My mom would cry. My dad would get loud. Dana would start texting cousins and spin the story into, Simon hates kids. Simon thinks he's better than us. Simon won't share. They'd make it a moral issue. So I didn't give them that. I let them keep believing they'd won. And then I quietly removed their ability to take from me. That Monday, I made the calls like I was handling a business transaction. First, I called the locksmith. I scheduled a full rekey for every exterior door. Front, back, garage entry, basement entry, even the shed. Then I called the security company and reset every code. I changed the admin login. I removed any family member access that had been added during the initial setup. Because yes, my mom had insisted she needed it in case of emergencies. I remembered the look on her face when she said that. Not concern, control. Next, I logged into the community portal and changed the gate access list. They had a section for recurring guests. I deleted everyone except myself. Then I created a new guest pass, temporary, timed, and attached to my phone only. I turned off the old keypad code entirely. Finally, I drove up that weekend and did the physical sweep. I checked the hiding spots. Under rocks. Inside fake flower pots. Behind the grill. And there it was. A spare key I didn't remember leaving. Which meant someone else had. I held it in my palm for a long time, staring at it like it was proof of something I didn't want to admit. My family had been treating my house like theirs since the minute they knew it existed. I dropped the key into the lake. It sank without drama. That felt fitting. Then I walked inside, sat at the kitchen island, opened my laptop, and pulled up the camera feeds. I watched my own empty living room from 3 different angles. It felt strange to feel safer in my own house because I'd started guarding it like an asset under threat. But I did feel safer. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was making an adult decision that protected me. Then I went to the fridge and stuck a small printed sign on the inside of the cabinet door, where only I would see it. It said, "This is not a family resource." I didn't put it up for motivation. I put it up because I knew how easily I could be guilt back into old patterns. I needed a reminder. The family reunion was scheduled for the second weekend of May. I didn't remind them about it. I didn't mention it. I let them build their fantasy. My mom sent texts in the family group chat, one I usually ignored because it mostly contained Dana's kids' soccer photos and passive-aggressive family values memes. Mom posted, "Can't wait for everyone to be together at the lake house." My dad replied with a thumbs up. Dana replied, "Kids are already packing." A cousin replied, "Wow, Simon, you're so generous." I stared at that line for a long time. Not because it hurt, because it proved my point. They weren't even pretending it was my choice. They'd turned it into a performance. Look what Simon is doing for us. Generosity was the costume they put on my boundaries. So I stayed silent. And I waited. They showed up on a Friday. I know because my cameras alerted me. I was in my city apartment, eating takeout, trying to pretend I didn't care when my phone buzzed. Motion detected, driveway. I opened the feed. And there it was. A U-Haul. A full-size, orange and white U-Haul parked in my driveway like a moving truck at an eviction. Behind it, my dad's truck. My mom's SUV. Dana's minivan. And people. So many people. Dana's kids hopped out first, already yelling, already running toward the lake like they were arriving at summer camp. My mom stepped out holding a big tote bag labeled kitchen stuff, like she'd already decided my kitchen wasn't good enough. My dad came around the back of the U-Haul with a clipboard. A clipboard, like he was managing a project. Then my dad walked up to my front door and punched in the old code with confidence. He didn't hesitate, because he wasn't guessing. He believed he owned the right to enter. The keypad flashed red. Denied. He tried again. Denied. Dana walked up, annoyed, and yanked the handle. Locked. She knocked, hard. No answer, of course. She tried the side door. Locked. Then she did the thing that made my stomach twist, even though I was miles away. She looked directly up at the camera above the porch. She smiled and waved like she was being cute, like she hadn't brought a U-Haul to my house. My dad stepped back and looked around, confused at first. Then the confusion shifted into irritation. I could see it in his posture, chin lifting, shoulders squaring, like the world had made a mistake and he was about to correct it. My mom walked up and put her hand on the door like she could soothe it open. Then she pulled out her phone. I knew what was coming before it happened. My phone started ringing. Dad. I let it ring. He called again. I let it ring. Then Mom. Then Dana. Then my cousin Brent, who I hadn't talked to in a year. The camera feed showed Dana stomping across the porch, phone pressed to her ear, talking fast. I couldn't hear her, but I could read her lips when she looked up at the camera again. What, Simon? My dad walked to the U-Haul and slapped the side of it like he was trying to wake it up. Then he pointed at my front windows. My mom started crying. Big, dramatic wiping motions like she was already preparing the story for the family group chat. And Dana? Dana walked to the back of the U-Haul and started lowering the ramp. She started unloading luggage onto my driveway. Not because she had permission, because she thought persistence would force compliance. I watched all of it from my phone, my heart beating hard, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. And then, finally, I did the one thing I'd promised myself I would do. I made one clean move. I didn't drive there. I didn't argue through the doorbell camera. I didn't send a long emotional text. I opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and closed the one channel that had kept them comfortable for years. It was a scheduled transfer. Every Friday. $1,100. Sometimes more when something came up. It went into my parents' account, under the excuse that they were catching up, that retirement was hard, that Dana's kids needed stability. I'd set it up years ago because it was easier than saying no every week. It was the opposite of a boundary. It was a habit that let them believe my money was part of the family budget. I clicked into the payment settings. My cursor hovered for 1 second. Then I hit cancel transfer. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? I stared at it, felt my hands tremble slightly, and clicked yes. Then I went one step further. I removed my parents as authorized recipients. I deleted the saved account information. I made it so it couldn't be restarted with a guilt text. The screen showed. Transfer canceled. It was so small and calm. Just a line of text. But my chest loosened like someone had cut a rope I didn't realize was choking me. Then I made one more call. Not to my dad. Not to my mom. To the community gate office. I said, "Hi, this is Simon. There are unauthorized vehicles attempting to access my property. I'm the homeowner. I want security to be aware that no one has permission to enter unless I personally add them." The woman on the phone didn't ask for family details. She didn't ask for backstory. She just said, "Understood. We'll handle it." That's what boundaries sound like when they're respected. Then I opened my phone and sent one message to the family group chat. One sentence. No insults. No explanations. No one has permission to use my lake house. Please leave the property. I hit send. And then I turned my phone face down. I didn't watch the cameras for a minute. I just sat there in my apartment and listened to my own breathing. Because for the first time, I wasn't negotiating my own life. I was simply enforcing it. The fallout hit fast. My dad left a voicemail that started calm and ended sharp. "Simon, stop this. We're here. People traveled. You're embarrassing your mother." My mom texted, "Why are you doing this to us? Everyone is watching." Dana texted, "My kids are crying. I hope you're proud of yourself." Then the cousins started. Not all of them. A few were confused. A few were angry. But one message came through that made me stop. It was from my aunt, my dad's sister, Aunt Melissa. She was the only adult in my family who ever talked to me like a person. Her message was simple. "Did you tell them yes? Or did they tell you?" I stared at that question for a long time, because it nailed the truth so cleanly it hurt. They hadn't heard my yes. They'd assumed it. I replied, "They told me." Aunt Melissa responded, "Then let them learn." I didn't cry, but my eyes burned. I checked the cameras again. My parents were still on the porch, but now there was another vehicle in the driveway. Community security. 2 men in plain jackets. Calm posture. Professional distance. One of them spoke to my dad. My dad pointed at the house, arms wide, like he was presenting a case. My mom dabbed her face with a tissue. Dana stood by the U-Haul ramp with her arms crossed, mouth tight, furious that reality wasn't obeying her. Then something happened that made my stomach flip in a weird way. Security didn't argue. They didn't debate family politics. They simply gestured toward the vehicles, toward the road. "Leave." My dad's shoulders slumped slightly, not in regret, in rage. The kind of rage a person feels when control slips and they realize no amount of volume will fix it. Dana grabbed a suitcase and slammed it back into the U-Haul. One of the kids started whining, and she snapped at them, pointing like it was their fault. My mom leaned toward my dad, speaking quickly, probably saying something like, "Just call him again, he'll cave." But I didn't. I didn't cave. I watched them load everything back up. I watched my dad pace once more like he wanted to put his fist through my door. I watched my mom glance at the camera and suddenly stop crying, like she remembered she was on display. I watched Dana kick the ramp up with her foot like she was ending a tantrum. Then the U-Haul pulled out. Slowly, like a retreat. They didn't wave goodbye. They didn't apologize. They left like I'd stolen something from them. Which, in their minds, I had. I'd stolen access. And access had always been their favorite form of ownership. That night, my phone didn't stop. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. My dad escalated to threats that were still dressed up as family concern. "You don't want to do this. You're going to regret treating us like strangers." Dana tried guilt. "You're ruining the kid's childhood." My mom tried the old classic. "I didn't raise you to be selfish." I listened to them. Not all at once. In small pieces. And something kept standing out. None of them said, "We're sorry we assumed." None of them said, "We should have asked." None of them said, "We crossed a line." It was all about what I had taken from them, not what they tried to take from me. So I sent one more message. Not in the group chat. Directly to my parents. "I'm not your backup bank. I'm not funding a family that treats my life like it belongs to them. Please don't come to the lake house again." Then I blocked my dad for 48 hours. Not forever. Just long enough to prove something to myself. That I could. The next week, my Aunt Melissa called me from her landline because she knew my parents were probably monitoring my cell number like hawks. "They're telling everyone you had some kind of breakdown," she said. I laughed once, without humor. "Of course they are. They also said you promised them the house," she added. I didn't even hesitate. I said sure because I didn't want to fight on my deck. "That's not the same thing." My aunt hummed. "Good," she said. "Don't explain more than that. People who believe them were always going to believe them." Then she said something that landed softly, but stayed heavy. "You know this isn't about the lake house, right?" "I know," I said. "It's about them losing the ability to use you," she replied. And that was the truth. My parents tried one last move a few weeks later. They didn't show up at the lake. They showed up at my apartment building. My doorman called me downstairs and said, "Your parents are here." I felt that old instinct, the one that always pushed me to smooth things over. I walked down anyway, because part of me still wanted to believe they'd come to apologize. They hadn't. My dad stood with his hands in his pockets, jaw set. My mom had that wounded expression she used like armor. My dad said, "You're really doing this?" I said, calm and even, "Yes." My mom said, "After everything we've done for you." I almost laughed again, but I didn't. I said, "You didn't do this for me. You did it for access." My dad's eyes narrowed. Then he tried the final angle. "You don't have a wife. You don't have kids. Who are you saving all this for?" There it was. The quiet contempt. The idea that my life didn't count unless it was structured the way they approved. I looked at him and said, "Me. Just that. Me." My mom opened her mouth to cry again, and I cut it off with the only sentence that mattered. I won't fund a family I'm not respected in. My dad stepped forward like he might argue, but the doorman was standing there, watching, polite and solid, and my dad hates being seen as the problem. So he did what he always did when he couldn't win. He turned it into a dramatic exit. My mom hissed, "You'll be sorry," like it was a curse. And they left. The consequences were exactly what you'd expect. Dana posted vague Facebook statuses about toxic people and selfishness. My mom stopped liking my photos, like that was punishment. My dad told extended family I was being controlled by money. But the bigger consequence was quieter. They actually had to pay their own bills. Dana actually had to plan her own summer. My parents had to accept that they couldn't just announce things and have me execute them. They didn't like it, but they adjusted, because people always adjust when the free ride ends. And me? I started sleeping better. Not perfectly. There were nights I still felt guilty, because guilt was the language my family used to keep me obedient. But the guilt got smaller every time I didn't feed it. A month later, I drove up to the lake house alone. I went on a Wednesday, deliberately. No holidays, no special occasion. Just a normal day. The air was warm. The water had turned blue again. The trees were full and loud with birds. I parked in the driveway and walked to the front door, and for the first time, I didn't tense up. I typed in the new code and stepped inside. It smelled like clean wood and lemon cleaner. Quiet. Mine. I made coffee, carried it out to the deck, and sat in the same chair my mom had sat in when she announced my sister's kids were staying all summer. I looked at the lake and let myself feel something I wasn't used to feeling. Relief. Not triumph. Not revenge. Just relief. Later, I went into my office and opened the drawer where I kept boring documents, insurance papers, receipts, manuals. That little sign I'd taped inside the cabinet door was still there. This is not a family resource. I peeled it off, folded it once, and put it in the drawer. Not because I didn't need the reminder anymore. Because I'd built the reminder into the structure of my life. Locks, codes, boundaries, and the simplest truth I'd ever said out loud. Me. That night, I grilled a steak, ate it on the deck, and watched the sun go down. No shouting. No guilt texts. No one unloading luggage like my life was their storage unit. Just the sound of water against the dock. And in that quiet, I understood something I should have learned years ago. I didn't lose my family that day. I stopped renting myself to people who never planned to treat me like one. I'm firmly on Simon's side. This wasn't a family plan. It was a takeover announced as if permission didn't matter. When people treat your home and your income like shared property, the safest response is quiet, documented limits, not a debate on the porch. The core lesson is simple. Help without clear terms turns into expectation, and expectation turns into pressure. Keep access under your control, unique codes, timed guest passes, alerts, and two-factor on every account. Do not share passwords. Put boundaries in writing before anyone visits. Dates, headcount, quiet hours, and who pays for what. If they won't agree, give one calm no, with a deadline to confirm and a clear fallback plan. Communicate in writing and save texts, emails, and vendor notes in one folder. And separate ongoing support from emotion. Cancel autopay help, require invoices, and consider legal advice if they keep showing up.